When you play the chromatic scale on the clarinet, does it sound uneven, lumpy maybe? Do your fingers feel like they're falling all over each other? And do your high notes sound squeaky? Or maybe are you just nervous to send in your audition? I'm Amanda. I was a band teacher for 8 years, and I've been playing the clarinet for a million. Here is my chromatic scale from the Idaho All-State auditions. 144 beats per minute. So let me tell you some tips and tricks that I have in my arsenal that I can tell you about the chromatic scale. The chromatic scale should sound the way a pearl necklace looks. Each pearl on the necklace is beautiful. There are no cracks, it's not dirty, it's the same color as its neighbors. If you take that for a chromatic scale, it means every single note needs to be beautiful. No cracks, no squeaks, no dirty sound, just beautiful pearl. Also, on the pearl necklace, each pearl is the same size. That means that each of your notes need to be even. They need to be the same length. They also are evenly spaced, these pearls, and that means you need to evenly space them with your tongue. Your tongue needs to touch the reed at even intervals. And those are all things that you need to know to make a perfect chromatic scale. Imagine a pearl necklace. Let's talk about the first thing, tone, the way your instrument sounds. It needs to sound beautiful on the high end and the low end of your instrument. When you play the low notes, they need to sound rich, thick, and full, just like the high notes should sound. A lot of clarinet players, when they play the high notes, they squeeze the reed as hard as they can. You might be familiar with this sound. The reed stopped and started there for a while because I was squeezing the reed so hard. You need to let your jaw loose, and if you still have an issue, you're going to have to drop the back of your throat. Now, I don't mean drop the back of your tongue. That's a little different. The back of your tongue pretty much should stay between your top molars all of the time. What I'm talking about is back here, where your Adam's apple is. I drop it quite a bit when I play those high notes. It keeps the throat nice and open. It keeps your sound nice and full. Practice on some of these high notes. Pick one. Pick the C or the C sharp or the D. And practice dropping your Adam's apple. You might get some scoops in there. That's a good thing. It'll help you find that sweet spot that you need to get a good sound. I got a little squeaky there at the end. It's because my Adam's apple was in the wrong spot. Keep your jaw open and mess around with this area of your body to find the sweet spot on each of your instruments. Now, it's really difficult for you to do that on your own, so you might need somebody to listen to you. I can do that for you, but we'll talk about that later. The next thing that we need to talk about is fingers. Fingerings on the chromatic scale are different than the ones you might have learned when you first learned to play the clarinet. For example, here on the chromatic scale, the A sharp to B section, I'll circle it even, might be a little different than what you're used to. When we play the chromatic scale, you might have to work on these pinky sections. We could talk about that some other time. But when you get to A sharp, that is what you would be fingering. When you get to B natural, the normal fingering would be this one. But if you see that, you kind of have to flop your fingers. So use that forked fingering when you play this scale. Sorry, I had a kid come and ask for something. So we talked about the A sharp to the B, forked fingering. You want to do that on the way up and the way down. Same thing with F to F sharp. High F to F sharp, forked fingering. You want to do that on the way up and the way down. The next one I want to talk to you about is this F sharp right here in the middle. This F sharp normally would be first finger. I use that most of the time for music and concert band, but you will flip your fingers back and forth if you do that on the chromatic scale. So instead, thumb and 2 side keys for F sharp. Now I'm going to demonstrate some of this. Sorry. So you see that? Forked fingering and 2 side keys for that F sharp on the way up and the way down. And the last thing I'll talk about fingers is crossing the break. One small step for man, one giant step for clarinet kind, right? A sharp to B natural. A sharp or B flat, register keys, open holes all over the place, and all of a sudden B natural. All the fingers, all the holes are covered. It's difficult to go from no holes covered to all the holes covered. But this is just a fingers game. You have to remember that. When I was teaching, I would take clarinets mouthpieces and turn them like this so that the mouthpiece, the reed, is on the same plane as the fingers. Then student puts instrument in their face and holds onto the barrel like so. Okay. And the teacher grabs the clarinet to play and does the chromatic scale and does it flawlessly while the student just blows air. This shows you that the air doesn't change no matter what you play. You can play high notes, low notes, whatever, as long as you keep this pretty much all the same. All the notes should be really nice and pretty. It's just a fingers game as far as crossing the break goes, which means you have to go fast. If you go slow, if one of your fingers like doesn't cover the holes properly, that kind of thing, it's going to squeak. So you have to go quickly. Keep your fingers close to the instrument and go quickly. All the holes need to be covered completely or you will squeak. And if you cross the break, you might feel resistance because you're going from no holes covered to all the holes covered. You can kind of feel in your mouth the instrument change the acoustics on the inside. As long as the air is supported and full the whole time through, it shouldn't matter. You just might feel the difference. Just don't change your air. Blow nice, full, strong sound of air and you'll cross the break just fine as long as your fingers go quickly. The last thing I want to talk about is rhythm. Each of these notes needs to be exactly the same length, put in the exact right place, and it needs to sound a little robotic as far as that goes. Practicing with the metronome and slow is your best friend. If you're struggling with the fingerings and knowing what they are, practice it extra super slow. The other thing that I want to talk to you about with the rhythm, if you're struggling with certain passages, do small chunks. For example, find little chunks and do just those over and over again. You can also mess with the rhythm. It kind of helps when you have to play things that are fast, but your fingers can't quite do that yet. You do little tiny small chunks fast with slow parts in between. Let me show you an example. Kind of like that. Slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast. And then it helps your fingers kind of do some of it fast, but not all of it. And do it on purpose. It'll help your brain kind of get used to the idea that your fingers are going to move quickly. So chunk it, small things, practice it slow, slowly get it faster, use a metronome. And if you need somebody to take a look at this with you to give you more personalized feedback on how you're playing and what you can do to improve on the chromatic scale or whatever else it is that you are preparing for, I can help you. Email me at clarinetfeedback@gmail.com. There will be a link in the description that you can email. Send me an email and we'll set up something in order for you to send me your video, your audition. I can listen to this track or all the tracks, and I will send you personalized feedback on what you're doing, and it'll help you out. Thanks.